All right, today we're going to do a tutorial in Illustrator using the 3D and materials tool, and this tutorial is designed for my class. So it's very specific this time to my class. So here we go. We're going to start by opening a new file, and let's go ahead and pick our letter, regular letter. You can find it in print, letter size 8.5 by 11. Just for a work area. It's not important how big it is. And then we're also gonna open the Windows panel and go down to 3D and materials and open this up. Let's get it set so it's on object first, and we're gonna use mainly extrude and inflate. We're gonna start with the inflate. We can click that now, but it's not important at this point. We wanna make a few shapes. We're gonna make a few shapes. So let's make as a group, let's go ahead and make a square, an even square. Let's go ahead and make a circle shape, and then let's also make a triangle. And since well, there's many ways to make a triangle, we'll just make a triangle with the pen tool. So let's make a triangle with the pen tool. All right, now that we have our three shapes, let's go ahead and select all of them. Let's go to the fill. We want a light colored fill. We don't want black. We need something other than black. So let's just pick any color you want. I want to pick this orangey yellow color. And then we're also going to get rid of the stroke. So no stroke. And then we're also going to use this as an opportunity to look at the alignment tools. So they show up in a couple places. When you have more than one object selected, there's these alignment tools. I have them in my top row, but depending on your workspace setup, they might be in different areas, but they do have them in the properties area. So what we want to do is just put them all in a line together. So we want to select the one that's the vertical alignment center. So that brings them all centered. And then let's also space them out evenly. So let's go to, the three dots will open up more of them. The distribution is what we want to do. We want to distribute horizontally centered. So let's click that. So now they're all evenly spaced out, and that's a good thing. So that's a lineup. So now you learned a little bit about alignment tool while we did this as well. Okay, the next very important step of this process, whenever you have multiple objects like this and you're going to create a 3D space with them, you want to go to use your command. You hold command and press 8, and that makes them into a compound path, which is similar to grouping them. So now they're kind of acting as a group in a way. They're acting as a group, which is an essential tool for when you're making things 3D. Okay, very important. Command and the number 8. So now it's a compound path. And when we grab one, we grab all of them. They're all essentially a group. All right, for this one, we're going to jump straight into inflate. So let's go and press the inflate button, and now it's kind of rendering, doing a little bit of rendering for us in a 3D kind of modeling. And this wheel in the center is your 3D wheel with your X and Y axis. If you grab the ball in the center, you can kind of rotate it around any degree you want. We're going to go ahead and use the presets. In Illustrator, they have a bunch of preset settings. So let's go to the custom, the preset setting. It says custom because I just moved it around, but let's go down all the way down to isometric top. So it creates this kind of angle. It's looking kind of 3D. We got our lighting going on. We have the objects. I'm moving it over to the right just a hair because we're gonna put a shadow on this and we need the space for it. So, and in order for anything to change, we have to have the object selected. So looking a little bit more, is there anything else in this first panel that we need at the moment? There's not anything we need at the moment. We can manipulate some of these features later as we feel like we want to. All right, the thing that we want to do right now, we want to go ahead and we can look at the materials panel. We're going to leave it on the default material, but there are other materials that can be applied to our objects, but let's leave it on default. And what we want to look at real quick is roughness. And roughness, the lower the roughness, the more shine there will be, and the higher the roughness, the less shine. However, it doesn't show you that in this setting right now, because this effect is what's called CPU intensive. It requires rendering to happen. So how to render is this box up here, and the render with rendering, it happens all in this upper box here. I'm going to press the down arrow so you can see some options. You can do kind of a sample rendering. If you turn on this ray tracing, it'll give you a sample rendering. We're going to leave it off for the purposes of my class. We do not need it on, so we're going to leave it off for now. But let's show you an example of what it looks like rendered. So let's just click the render button and let's see what happens. It'll take a second here. It's rendering 3D and materials effect, and now you can see that it is much more like shiny than it was. We changed the roughness down and it made it more shiny, but we don't need that render on because it'll just slow things down. So we're going to turn it off, and we're going to leave it off. You can render at your discretion when you finish your projects. So the next thing we want to look at is the lighting. Lighting, so we need to make sure our objects are selected. We're going to leave it at standard lighting right here, but there's some default angles of the lighting. Diffuse just means it's kind of like ambient lighting all around, but these angles mean there's lighting coming in at specific angles. But what I think is the most important feature of this panel is this shadows one right here. So if it's closed, make sure it's open for you, and then turning on shadows lets you see, it kind of makes it even more 3D effect because there's a shadow. But then as you notice, it's kind of cut off, so we want to make sure our bounding box is big enough to show the entire shadow. And then if we increase the distance from object, it makes the objects seem like they're floating, and then we'll have to adjust the bounding box if that's the effect we want to do. But then if we want to increase the length of the shadow, we increase the angle of the light. So if we lower the height of the light, it's like the sun is setting essentially, and shadows get longer. The sun is higher in the sky, there's less of a shadow. So depending on where you want the length of your shadow, that's where you would set that. So that's essentially it. Making objects, combining them into a compound path, and then manipulating your settings in your 3D objects. Pretty straightforward. It's pretty easy. We're going to do it again one more time with objects that we've created as a class. So what we want to do is open up we've previously made and I've previously made a tutorial on this, on how to make a basic font. So we're going to open up our basic font. I have mine pre-saved here. So I have my font here. So I'm just going to select my font. I only have one in this case. My class may have more than one. So I'm going to just, Command C, copy the font, and then go back to our other panel here, our other one we were working on. And I'm just going to Command V and paste it in here. And again, my font is black and we want to change it to a lighter color. So I'm going to pick, I don't know, a green this time. And then I'm going to make it a little bit smaller. Let's make it smaller so we can put more together. So there's one of my letters. And then I'm just going to, let's make 4 of them. Let's just copy them 4 times across. So now we have 4. Let's do that same process with our alignment tool. Let's make sure they're all even, and then let's make sure they're all spaced out evenly. Okay, and remembering what we did before, maybe it's a little, because I want to keep it on my artboard, I'm just going to go ahead and make it a little bit smaller. So remembering what we did before, we did Command 8 to make it a compound path. It essentially groups them together. So now they're grouped together, compound paths, so that the computer knows how to deal with the 3D rendering of it. So let's show you an example. Let's go back a step. There's no longer compound. Let's see, is it no longer? I think I have to go back 2 steps. So without it being a compound path, we're going to use the extrude And then we're also going to go to that isometric top. So look what happens when I select them all and rotate. They're kind of overlapping each other. They're kind of like overlapping each other. So let's go Command Z and go back before we did our 3D effect. And now let's select them all again and do that Command 8, create a compound path, and do that same process again. We extruded it, and then we went to isometric top, and now when we rotate, they don't overlap each other. So it's told the computer how to deal with these objects so they don't overlap. So that's the reason we do the compound path. So we're using the isometric top again, and same deal. In this case, if we want to make our text taller, we can. Let's make them a little bit taller than before. So now they're taller, and then let's go ahead and go straight to our lighting this time and do the same thing. Turn on our shadows, open our bounding box a little bit more, and then maybe we make it a little bit smaller so that shadow fits inside of our work surface, and that's it. We're done. Maybe we want to change the height of the lighting, make it taller or shorter. But yeah, there we go. We've accomplished what we want to do for our tutorial. We learned how to create a 3D shape, we learned how to use the alignment tool, and we learned how to manipulate the lighting of our object. Cool. Thanks for watching. Peace.